All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into, kind of some fascinating economic waters.
Okay.
Get it?
Yeah.
Because we're tackling the new Oxford Handbook of Economic Geography.
Right.
Okay, maybe that joke needs a little work, but trust me, this stuff is way more interesting than it sounds.
Yeah.
We're talking about how location, like literally where you are on the map, can seriously impact your life.
Yeah, you're spot on. And these excerpts, they really highlight that connection.
Hmm.
It's not just about, countries or continents,
Right.
but even the cities and neighborhoods we live in. It's all connected to income, innovation, even how resources are distributed.
Yeah. One thing that jumped out at me was this idea of Asia, potentially regaining its historical economic dominance, kind of a Return of the Dragon situation.
Right, right.
I don't know.
It's a compelling argument. The book takes a close look at 11 major Asian economies,
Hmm.
including giants like China and India,
Right.
and contrasts their growth with the stagnation we see in places like Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And they even reference research suggesting that this could mirror Asia's economic power before the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind-blowing, history rhyming and all that. But let's bring it down to earth for a second.
Sure.
How does this impact the average person? I mean, does knowing about economic geography help you negotiate a raise or something?
Well, it certainly gives you a broader perspective on economic forces.
Okay.
Take income inequality, for example.
Okay.
The research uses the UK as a case study,
Mm.
and it uncovers some pretty startling figures. Back in 2012, the top 0.1% of UK households were earning, on average, over 3 times more than everyone else in the top 1%.
Wait, 3 times more
Yes.
just within that top 1%. That's insane.
It really highlights how concentrated wealth can be,
Yeah.
even within a relatively small geographic area.
Right.
And it's not just a UK phenomenon. The book also digs into income disparities in U.S. cities.
Mm-hmm.
Guess which areas have the highest levels of inequality?
Let me guess. New York and Silicon Valley.
You got one right.
Oh,
It's actually
yeah.
the Newark, Jersey City area, along with the Bridgeport, Stamford, Norwalk region.
Wow.
These megaregions seem particularly prone to income disparities.
So even in a country like the U.S., where you live, can significantly impact your earning potential. But with remote work and the internet making the world smaller, is location really that important anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, I can write code from a beach in Bali if I want to.
That's a great question.
Right.
And it's something the research grapples with.
Yeah.
Um, while remote work is on the rise, the benefits of physical proximity, especially for certain industries, are still significant. This is where the concept of agglomeration economies comes in.
Agglomeration, sounds like something I should know. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, think of it like this. Certain industries thrive when they're clustered together geographically.
Okay.
Take Silicon Valley again.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all our technological advancements, being physically close to other tech companies, investors, and a pool of skilled workers creates a unique environment for innovation and growth. It's like a feedback loop of success.
So even though we're more connected than ever, there's still something to be said for being in the right place at the right time, or at least in the right industry cluster.
Precisely.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
just about individual businesses succeeding, but about entire regions developing specialized skills and resources that are hard to replicate elsewhere.
Which makes me think about this idea of recombinant innovation that I came across in one of the excerpts.
Yeah.
It's like economic evolution, right?
Right.
Taking existing industries and instead of reinventing the wheel, you're just remixing them into something new.
Exactly. It highlights how regions with a history of specialization in certain areas often have a head start when it comes to developing new related industries.
Mm-hmm.
Think about Detroit's history with automobiles. While the industry has changed, that legacy of manufacturing expertise still shapes the region's economic landscape.
So are some regions just destined to be stuck in the past, economically speaking?
Well,
Like if you're not Silicon Valley or Detroit, are you just out of luck?
not necessarily.
Mm-mm.
The authors explore a fascinating concept called strategic coupling, which challenges that traditional view.
Strategic coupling. Okay. I'm going to need you to unpack that one.
Essentially, it suggests that regions can leverage their unique strengths, whatever they may be, to tap into global production networks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about being a core economic powerhouse, but about finding your niche in the global economy.
So it's like playing to your strengths, even if they're not the obvious ones.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that economic success in the 21st century isn't just about where you are on the map, but how you connect to the rest of the world.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Yeah.
But I'm also realizing that economic geography is about way more than just maps and trade routes.
Right.
It's like a whole new way of looking at the world.
Absolutely. And there's no better example of that than China.
Hmm.
We hear so much about China's economic rise,
Right.
but these excerpts really dig into the how. And it turns out geography plays a huge role.
All right, give me the lowdown. What's so unique about China's economic geography?
Well, for starters, their urban landscape is on a whole other level. Forget about just having a few megacities.
Right.
China has a mind-boggling number of them,
Okay.
each with populations exceeding 10 million.
Wow.
Think Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing.
Mm-hmm.
The scale of urbanization there is just massive.
So more megacities equals more economic power?
Well,
Is that the equation?
act so fast. The book dives into this fascinating concept called incomplete urbanization,
Okay.
which highlights the complexities of China's economic development. It explains how their hukou system,
Okay.
which is like a household registration system,
Hmm.
has created a sort of economic divide within their society.
A divide, you mean like a tale of two Chinas running in parallel?
Exactly. You've got these booming megacities attracting millions of workers,
Yeah.
but many of them are still classified as rural residents under the hukou system.
Mm-hmm.
This limits their access to certain social benefits and economic opportunities,
Right.
even though they're living and working in these urban centers.
Wow. So they're caught in this weird in-between zone,
Yeah,
contributing to the urban economy, but not fully benefiting from it.
precisely. And this creates a whole host of social and economic challenges for China to grapple with.
Yeah.
From income inequality and social unrest to pressure on urban infrastructure. It's a stark reminder that rapid economic growth doesn't always translate into equitable development for everyone.
Yeah. Like a cautionary tale about the potential downsides of breakneck urbanization without considering the human cost.
Exactly. And these challenges aren't unique to China. India, another economic powerhouse, faces its own set of geographical hurdles, despite its impressive growth.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the India story when we look at it through the lens of economic geography?
India's economic landscape is
Yeah.
incredibly diverse,
Okay.
even more so than China's in some ways. You have these booming tech hubs,
Right.
vast agricultural regions, and areas still grappling with poverty. It's a complex tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
One of the excerpts that stood out to me explores this phenomenon they call regional competition.
Regional competition, so like states battling it out for economic dominance?
Exactly. Different states within India are vying for investment, resources,
Wow.
and even skilled labor. They're all trying to carve out their own economic niche.
It's like a microcosm of globalization playing out within India itself.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest, state-level edition.
It's a good analogy.
Mm.
And this competition can be both a driver of growth and a source of tension.
Okay.
Some states have been incredibly successful in attracting investment and developing thriving industries.
Mm-hmm.
Think tech hubs like Bangalore,
Right.
while others are lagging behind, struggling to keep pace with the rapid changes.
So even within a country like India where you live can have a huge impact on your economic opportunities and quality of life. Location, 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 right?
It's a recurring theme, isn't it?
Oh,
But it's not just about physical location.
right.
It's also about the institutions and policies that shape economic landscapes. The book highlights how India's history,
Okay.
like its strong English-speaking middle class and relatively secure property rights, have actually played a significant role in its economic development.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about geography. It's about how history and policy intersect with location to create those conditions for growth.
You've hit the nail on the head. However, India also offers a cautionary tale. While its overall growth has been remarkable, its rate of poverty reduction has slowed down. This is especially concerning for those outside the urban elite, highlighting the persistent challenges of inequality.
It's like we're seeing a common thread here, this
Yeah.
tension between overall economic growth and how the benefits of that growth are distributed across different regions and populations.
That's a keen observation, and it's a tension that plays out on a global scale. Even in a country like Greece,
Okay.
which has faced well-documented economic hardships, we see the profound impact of economic geography.
Greece. Okay, I'm really curious to hear about this. It's not a country we usually associate with discussions of economic powerhouses.
Right.
Tell me more.
Greece is a perfect example of how global and local forces intertwine to shape economic destinies.
Okay.
Over the past few decades, their economy underwent major shifts,
Mm-hmm.
transitioning from a more industrial base to one heavily reliant on services,
Right.
especially after joining the European Union.
That makes sense, aligning with the EU's economic structure. But it sounds like there were some bumps in the road.
There were.
Oh,
This shift towards services led to a heavy dependence on non-exporting and consumption-dependent sectors.
okay.
Then, with the introduction of the European Monetary Union in 2001,
Mm.
Greece experienced a period of what economists call finance-led growth.
Finance-led growth. That sounds a bit precarious, like building your house on a foundation of credit cards.
It can be. And unfortunately, in Greece's case, this type of growth made them incredibly vulnerable to the global financial crisis of 2008.
Ah, I see where this is going. Their geographic location within the EU and their economic structure made them particularly susceptible to that global economic earthquake.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, the austerity measures implemented in response to the crisis actually exacerbated the situation.
Oh, no.
They led to economic contraction, job losses,
Wow.
and a skyrocketing national debt. It's a stark illustration of how global economic forces can have very localized and painful consequences.
It's a stark reminder that economic stability can be fragile,
Yeah.
even for countries we perceive as being relatively well off. It makes you realize that economic geography isn't just about where things are on a map, but also about how those locations are interconnected. And those connections can either boost an economy or leave it vulnerable. It's amazing how interconnected things are, even when we're talking about countries on opposite sides of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what about the U.S.?
Mhm.
We often hear about the American dream,
Right.
but how does economic geography play into that narrative?
Right.
Is it holding true?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
The research paints a complex picture.
Okay.
On the one hand, the U.S. has a long history as a global economic powerhouse with diverse industries and innovative hubs.
Right.
But even within that success story, there are significant geographic disparities.
So even in the land of opportunity, your zip code can still influence your economic destiny.
Absolutely. One of the excerpts hones in on income inequality in the U.S.
Yeah, okay.
And the findings are eye-opening. Income inequality has been on the rise for decades, and it's not happening uniformly.
Right.
There's a distinct spatial pattern,
Oh.
with some areas experiencing remarkable prosperity while others are grappling with stagnation and decline.
This feels like a recurring theme. No matter where we look on the map, there's this persistent tension between overall economic growth and how those benefits are actually distributed.
You're picking up on a crucial point.
Mhm.
In the U.S., several factors contribute to this widening gap,
Yeah.
like a decline in middle-class support, stagnant wages, and a minimum wage that hasn't kept pace with the cost of living.
So it's like a perfect storm of economic forces and policy decisions all converging to create this uneven economic landscape.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the consequences of this rising inequality are far-reaching.
Yeah.
It can lead to social unrest, political instability, and even hinder long-term economic growth.
This all sounds a bit bleak. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel?
Oh,
How do we even begin to bridge this gap and create a more equitable economic future?
it's a challenge that demands innovative thinking and collaborative solutions. The research hints at a potential path forward with the concept of economic ecosystems.
Economic ecosystems, that sounds intriguing. Is that like a real ecosystem but with less history?
You're on the right track. Instead of just focusing on individual companies or industries,
Right.
we need to shift our perspective. We need to consider the interconnected web of businesses, institutions, resources, and even cultural factors within a specific geographic area. It's about fostering an environment where collaboration, knowledge sharing, and support for innovation and entrepreneurship can flourish.
So it's about creating fertile ground for economic growth that benefits a wider range of people and places rather than just a select few in a few concentrated areas.
Exactly. And this idea of nurturing economic ecosystems can be applied at different scales, from revitalizing a struggling neighborhood to boosting the economic prospects of an entire region. It's about understanding the unique strengths and challenges of each place and tailoring development strategies accordingly.
Wow. This has been an eye-opening journey. We've gone from global power shifts to the challenges of inequality and now this hopeful idea of cultivating economic ecosystems. It feels like economic geography gives us a new lens to understand not just the economy, but the world itself.
It's about recognizing that everything is connected, our physical location, our history, our policies, and our collective future. It's a complex tapestry,
Yeah.
and understanding the threads that bind it all together is crucial for navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the new Oxford Handbook of Economic Geography. Listeners, I hope this has sparked your curiosity about the power of place and the forces shaping our economic realities. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and remember that sometimes where you stand can make all the difference.